Hey folks, welcome back to HeartGold vs. Crystal. We are here at the Pokemon League facing the champion round 2. Of course, we all recognize this fashionable man. He's the one who helped us through the Team Rocket takeover. He fought us the last time we went through the Elite Four, and he fought us at the Dragon's Den. So we should be very familiar with this good guy. He's Lance. And the nice thing about facing him here, after having fought him at the Dragon's Den, is that we already have seen half of his team, and as far as I'm aware, those members are unchanged between the two fights. So really, we only have to be surprised by about half of his team. Unfortunately, he has some of the strongest little dudes in the entire game, starting off strong with this Salamence. Now, Salamence is already kind of annoying because it has the Intimidate ability, much like his Gyarados, which will cut your physical attack a little bit. But it is nice in that, like many Dragon types, it is a dual type that is quadruple weak to Ice-type moves. So if you're smart in bringing Ice-type moves to play, preferably special to avoid the Intimidate, it should go down before he has any opportunity to mess with you. Unfortunately, of course, I do not have a nice move, and as such, this is once again going to be the Everett Power Hour. I say hour, but it's only, what, 15 minutes? It was an hour unedited. I shit you not. This was a bit of a long and arduous fight. Anyway, Salamence, a little bit of history, is 3rd generation Dragon type. He's the pseudo-legendary from 3rd gen other than Metagross. And it's dangerous in a lot of ways. Its primary attack stat is its physical attack stat, and it's, I think, 135 base stat. But it has pretty darn good special attack and pretty darn good speed as well. So it can really dish out on either side of the spectrum. And probably hit you before you can hit it if you're running less speedy Pokemon like I am in this run. Plus, I'm underleveled, of course. So here we have Klaus attempting to prey on Salamence's flying type using Rock Slide. And with some luck, it'll work out well, because Dragon Claw, as you can see, was just barely a 3-hit KO. And that gives me an opportunity to slip in a Rock Slide between Hyper Potions. Of course, if Rock Slide misses, that will not end well for me, but let's observe how this works. It works pretty darn well, I would say. Very, very well. So that Salamence actually went out a little bit better than I expected. I mean, I had the Rock Slide miss the first time, but I was expecting a lot worse from that thing. And then, of course, we have Gyarados. We remember Gyarados. Gyarados was on his original team first time through the Elite Four, and he was also on the team when we fought him with Claire. And like Salamence, my best option is to try to get in a Rock Slide and prey on its flying type. It is, of course, quadruple weak to electricity, as I've pointed out before, but as I've pointed out before, I don't have electricity. He does, though. What a jerk. But the nice thing is that Klaus resists Gyarados' best moves, I think. I mean, he tried to use a Waterfall. But the dangerous thing, as you'll recall, is that it has Dragon Dance, which increases its attack and speed by 1 stage. And if that continues, he can not only wipe out Klaus, but the entire rest of the team. But he does like to go for 2 or more Dragon Dances, so getting up that Swords Dance and then getting in a Rock Slide, relatively safe proposition, and the Rock Slide should then be powerful enough to inflict a lot of damage, despite the Intimidate essentially making it a +1 rather than a +2 boost. Overall, not too bad. Next up we have Altaria. Altaria is sort of an odd one out. It is dragon flying like many of his other Pokemon, but it's not a pseudo-legendary, its stats are just not as high as many of his other Pokemon. And unfortunately Paralysis got in the way there, and he's powerful enough that Klaus can't really Hyper Potion him. It's actually found basically in the middle of the 3rd generation games, like right before the 4th gym. So it's not as powerful as the rest of his team, and falls prey to many of the same tactics. He does have Perish Song. Perish Song I think we've addressed before, maybe in the previous video, I don't know, it's been so long. But basically the idea here is that he sets up Perish Song so that both Pokemon there will faint in 3 turns unless they switch out. And of course he will switch out the turn before it activates so that he'll survive. The nice thing, of course, is that if you have, like, if he, for whatever reason, had boosts on Altaria, I don't know if he can get boosts on Altaria, those are nullified. But that also means that if you have stat decreases on him, or increases on yourself, then those also go out the window if you can't capitalize on them before Perish Song ends. But overall, as you can see, Altaria isn't the one-shot destroyer that you might be expecting from Lance. Sort of an odd one out, if you ask me. But anyway, here we are 1 turn from the Perish Song activating. And I'm stuck at a conundrum. Do I want to try to attack whatever comes in and let Webster faint, or do I want to do something else? Well then, of course, Webster faints anyway, so that's great. Anyway, there's Charizard. We remember Charizard, don't we? Charizard has many things to fear from Klaus. He has Rock Slide, he has Crab Hammer. And as long as I can get something in, and I got the quadruple effective in, Charizard will go down fairly well. Again, I think this was the case in Lance Round 1, and it's again the case here. Most of his Pokemon have quadruple weaknesses, whether it's to Ice, to Electricity, or to Rock, and I think that's actually covers all of them. So bring those, especially Ice, and you'll be in really, really good shape. Anyway, back to Altaria, already in progress. And Bree, I'm expecting to be able to kind of soak up hits from Altaria fairly well while still dishing out things. And basically it gives me an opportunity to do something similar to what I do with Everett. Except it's not with Everett this time, so it's like totally different. So I guess another thing about Altaria is that you only really have to worry about Perish Song for a certain period of time, because eventually he will run out of, like, Pokemon to switch to, and run out of PP for that matter. But generally he won't switch back to Altaria until you have defeated the Pokemon in question. The ring comes in after. So eventually he'll run out of those. But it looks like with the AI here, he generally won't use it more than once anyway. Anyway, you can see there, Bree is very good at taking hits from Altaria. Oh, but there's Perish Song, never mind, eat my words. I'm pretty good at taking hits from Altaria, and that let me heal up a variety of other team members. Now, Aura Sphere, not honestly a great move option here, I'm gonna be honest. That might have been a misclick, but that was a terrible idea. Not very effective at all. And there's that stat drop conundrum that I mentioned earlier. I got the special defense drop, which would be really nice if you weren't going to get rid of it in a turn or two. So basically I want to capitalize on it as much as possible now, and then either switch out Bree or let her take the fall. The worst thing is if the paralysis kicked in. That was also not a great idea, Bree. That didn't capitalize on special defense drop. I mean, I guess I gotta fly in on the Dragonite. That's something. It's not much. But yes, Dragonite, of course, we're all very familiar with Lance and his love of Dragonites. And this is his highest level Pokemon, level 75. Not something to be taken lightly. And as usual, it is quadruple weak to ice, but I don't have any ice moves, and it's a tragedy. But again, my best bet is basically attrition. And that's why Frida is coming in. But little did I suspect that he had Fire Blast. Fire Blast probably there to take care of any ice types that you bring in. But Frida, are you bulky enough to take it? No, you're not. What a tragedy. But from what I recall of this Dragonite, it's a horrible person, and it should be ashamed of its life, and I hate it. It has Safeguard, which means I can't Toxic it or anything, or Confuse Ray, unless I time it very craftily. And overall, I'm pretty sure, yeah, he's a jerk. The one saving grace is that he has this Draco meter, which I think I explained in the Claire double battle. It partially lowers his special attack every time he uses it, and he doesn't have a hold item to alleviate the special attack drop, so that means that he will essentially nerf himself just a few moves through. And it does nerf the special attack, which is what Hyper Beam runs off of. So Hyper Beam, usually a very powerful move, is significantly weakened. So if you can either cycle through revives or have somebody really bulky or somebody who resists Dragon to kind of soak up those Draco Meteors, that might be your best bet if you don't have a fast Ice-type move to use. Anyway, back to Altaria once again, this thing for the third time. But now I have an unparalyzed Rock Slider to come in, and hopefully that will do a very nice number. It'll be super effective if nothing else. Fantastic. Critical. Everything I could have dreamed of. And now he only has one Pokemon left, but it is a doozy of a Pokemon. It is Garchomp. One of the few non-legendaries to get banned from competitive play for just being so freaking good. Basically, it is a 4th generation Dragon Ground type that will wreck you with powerful Dragon type moves that have very little drawback. You can see his Outrage there, he's using physical moves. An Outrage will eventually confuse you 2 or 3 turns of use later. But good lord, it's just not enough. And this thing was a jerk, it was a total jerk. But the nice thing is, if you have a fast ice type, it will also fall to the fast ice type, like Salamence and Dragonite and Altaria before it. If you don't have something to deal with it, it will inflict a lot of damage, and as you can see, my best bet has kind of been bringing in Pokemon with full health and getting an attack off, hopefully, before they're two-shotted. Garchomp is a dangerous thing. It's a hell of a drug. But that Garchomp out of the way, the champion Lance is out of the way, and that takes care of the second round of the Johto Kanto Indigo League Elite Four. Unfortunately, the dialogue is completely unchanged, complete with the Mary and Professor Oak coming along, and that seems really lazy if you ask me. And with that, we've taken on the second biggest challenge that this game has to offer. And we'll take on the greatest challenge next time.